most dangerous person in the world is a young male teen or in his early 20s who's broke. हमने हर चीज़ को एक gender war बना दिया.
It is very difficult for someone to be vulnerable and have those conversations.
I would give my introduction, but honestly, nobody gives a fuck. I'm a firm believer कि यार बस बहुत होगी ना बहनचोद, मतलब एक दूसरे को कितनी पैंट उतारेंगे.
Superman is love, bro.
That's exactly the problem. Pindi boy.
All right, this is it. Welcome to a podcast that flips the script and challenges the status quo. This is intellectually devolved and emotionally damaged.
That is quite the mouthful.
That's what she said.
Is she here?
I would rather not.
Okay, let's discuss this after the show.
We will talk about this after the show. This is where we give a big, bold, fat, exactly, to the shallow celebrity and influencer culture that is infiltrating our screens.
Aren't you sick of it?
I'm actually very sick of it. Quick introduction. I am the showman, and we shall go with that for the rest of the series.
And I would give my introduction, but honestly, nobody gives a fuck. कि मैं कौन हूँ, मैं क्या करता हूँ, मैं कहाँ से आया हूँ. What actually matters is कि मेरे मुँह से क्या बकवास निकलने वाली है, how evolved my ideas are that we're going to share here, the discussions we're going to have, the uncomfortable ones that nobody wants to talk about because everybody wants brands on their shows and we don't give a you know what.
Yeah.
So you can call me Broccoli.
All right, so Broccoli, I think to everyone who is hopefully viewing this right now, the reason that we started the show was, or this concept was born out of the need for a conversation that, two Pakistani men from Islamabad, now from Islamabad, actually he's from Islamabad, I'm from Pindi.
Pindi boy.
Pindi boy and other places. Yeah, Pindi boy ka bada scene hai.
Bada sex hai Pindi boy.
So we felt that there was a need for a conversation, to be had about masculinity and what it means in the Pakistani societal context.
In the modern era.
And no fear, we're not going to be, I don't want to be Jordan B. Peterson. I'm not. मेरी इतनी research नहीं है, ना मेरी इतनी सोच है उस बंदे जैसी. हाँ, थोड़ी सी Andrew Tate जितनी है.
हाँ, इतने privileged भी नहीं हो ना, गोरे नहीं हो तुम.
हाँ, मैंने वैसे ये glasses, Andrew Tate. So,
तुम Andrew Tate fan boy हो तो अभी निकल जाओ यहाँ से बाहर. I mean, fuck that shit if you're an Andrew Tate fanboy.
No, I'm not an Andrew Tate fanboy. But I mean, he is one of the reasons why we're having this show, because there's a lot of conversation around that, and I feel.
So people like him and a lot of other people are the reason why I wanted to do this, because I'm sick and tired of hearing privileged and bullshitters sit on TV and talk shit about, and हमने हर चीज़ को एक gender war बना दी है. Whereas I am a firm believer that it's not a gender war. It's not men do this and women do this. Men are assholes and women are too emotional. It's humans, basically. So I want to focus this podcast, this conversation around humans and not genders. And I need to... I'm a firm believer कि यार बस बहुत होगी ना बहनचोद, मतलब एक दूसरे को कितनी पैंट उतारेंगे. We need to work together in tandem to solve and talk about issues that... And frankly, I don't know why कोई इस पे बात नहीं कर रहा. I don't know why are people too afraid to talk about these issues.
So, actually, yeah, when I was doing a bit of reading for before our conversation, and yes, I don't know about Broccoli, but I did a bit of reading because I do want to have a very intelligent discussion with you, and I feel a lot of people in Pakistan deserve that. And both men and women. The reason why Andrew Tate is so popular is because there is a need, out there that he's filling, right?
Yeah. He appeals to a certain demographic.
He appeals to a certain demographic, and sadly, we don't have an alternate, another voice that not necessarily opposes that, but an alternate point of view.
Yeah.
So that's basically what happens, that everyone, sort of flocks to that opinion. And we already have a lot of that in our culture. I don't think we need more of it. खैर इसलिए ये बात हो रही है. So यार फोन है तुम्हारे पास?
हाँ है बिल्कुल.
अच्छा तो बोलती है?
कौन बोलती है?
Siri.
बहन की सीरी.
पूछें जरा Siri से masculinity, since this is going to be a running theme throughout our
Interesting.
shows. So let's ask Siri what masculinity is.
Hey Siri, can you tell me what masculinity is? Hey Siri. Siri की भी कह रही तुम्हारी. I appreciate your interest in politics. This is not politics, Siri. What the fuck is wrong with Siri? Let's try this again. Hey Siri, can you tell me what masculinity is? Siri ने एक आर्टिकल खोला है जिसमें वो बोल रहे हैं masculinity. यार मुझे कभी ये सही से I cannot ever pronounce it right.
Masculinity.
Masculinity
Yeah.
is a set of attributes, behaviors, roles associated with men and boys.
Okay. All right. So, speaking of, Alisa, what is your idea of what a masculine person or man? Let's just say, let's talk about men right now.
So let me tell you something. Yes, we will discuss about what masculinity is and what is my idea, but frankly, like you researched, what I did was I sat with a lot of young women, a lot of young girls, bright young girls who are up and coming and who are flourishing in their careers, independent women, married women, and their idea of masculinity is the idea जो कि old school है, of a guy who's chivalrous.
Okay.
Chivalry for them is masculinity. Somebody वो ही नहीं चाहती कि वो दरवाजे खोले उतर के, but somebody who is a protector. ये नहीं कि आप कहीं मार्केट में जा रहे हैं, किसी ने लड़की को आवाज़ मारी और वो कह रहा है ब्रो माइंड ना कर, चल निकल आगे. Somebody who doesn't talk like bro करके. Somebody who talks, जैसे वो शाहरुख खान का एक क्लिप है ना, वो बड़ा चल रहा है आजकल. वो कहता है कि जी मेरी I hate the fact that men talk to women like तू करके और ये वो, और वो बड़ा लड़कियां शेयर भी करें. That, and it was actually मेरे लिए भी थोड़ा सरप्राइजिंग था. Women want that. And these are young women in their 20s, early 20s or late 20s. These are women who want the old school masculinity, somebody who's a provider, somebody who has his head straight on, who's fun, but yet has laser focus in life. He knows what he wants. And for them masculinity is नहीं वो जो होता है ना कि रात के 12 बजे वो क्या होता है यार, वो एक टर्म जो यूज करते हैं.
Man, रात के 12 बजे बहुत कुछ हो रहा था, so you need to clear that up really fast.
Thanks for doing that. You've just ruined my train of thought, so
I
a big
will.
fat middle finger to you too. अच्छा वो basically जो वो कहते हैं ना you up,
Okay.
they are pretty much sick of that culture. They want a guy जो कि ये ना पूछे कि
Okay.
what do you want to do.
Okay.
They want a guy who says hey
WID.
listen,
What you doing?
yeah what you doing.
Yeah.
But वो उसका एक नया है ना, वो रात के 12 बजे जो fuck boys मैसेज करते हैं कि you up.
So good question. So I'm sorry. Good.
Insight.
Context.
Insight.
Great insights and amazing context.
Yeah.
Which sort of brings me to my question. So why did you have conversations with women to begin with? Like why just women and not men our age? Hold on.
Yeah.
And then also, why do you think is this particular concept, of being a fuckboy, the idea of masculinity that men, let's say Gen Z, have now?
यार थोड़ा सा डिग डीप करते हैं, ठीक है. इसका मसला ये है कि हम इतनी कैंपेन्स चला रहे हैं इतने सालों से, ठीक है. men had this counter to all the Me Too campaigns. Men had this counter campaign, a lot of counter campaigns that were actually funded by a lot of organizations, a lot of people. And let's not get into that, but okay, men can cry too. It's not easy being the head of the family. Blah 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 hashtag. But we still view men with the age-old norms of what a masculine man is. एंड इट हैज़ चेंज्ड ओवर द ईयर्स. ठीक है, सो मसला बताऊँ कहाँ से स्टार्ट होता है. व्हेन यू आर ग्रोइंग अप, you and I both know how many times when you talked about your feelings, one of your bros said, "Oh, stop being a pussy." And by the way, boys, stop. If somebody is weak, stop calling them a pussy, because that's the world's most powerful and most amazing thing. So I think you're just insulting yourself when you call somebody weak a pussy, because you might as well call it a dick, because that's more appropriate. More on that in another episode. But yeah, so you know, how many times did you hear, I want to do arts, and you're somebody who went and did something pretty close to that, and you followed your dream, but how many times did you hear other men or people or authority figures in your life call you कि ये तो लड़कियों का शौक है, ये तो लड़कियों की चीज़ें. और when we are, देखो हर बंदा मैस्कुलिन नहीं पैदा होता, हर बंदे को इन्वायरमेंट नहीं मिलती, एंड इट कोई इसमें माचोइज्म नहीं है कि आपको मैस्कुलिन ही होना है. यू कैन हैव मैस्कुलिनिटी बाय बीइंग अ वेरी सेंसिटिव वोक मैन. And that is the problem, because जो करना चाहते हैं, and frankly there are a lot of people जिनके सामने अगर एक अच्छा decent masculine बंदा लड़कियों के सामने रख दें, so this is not an attack on anyone or any gender, this is what is happening in the world. अगर आप किसी भी लड़की के सामने एक अच्छा woke decent masculine man खड़ा कर देंगे, who's a protector, who's a provider, they'll think he's boring, and they do think he's boring. And nobody wants to end up with that guy unless he's emotionally unavailable. So हम जहाँ पे बात करते हैं मैस्कुलिनिटी की, हम ये भूल जाते हैं कि यार हम जिस सोसाइटी में बने हुए हैं, हमें तो मौका ही नहीं मिला ना कभी. हमें पहले दिन से बताया गया कि जी आपका काम है कि बेटे एक बारी तू मैट्रिक कर ली, उसके बाद तो बस ज़िंदगी पैसा ही पैसा. ठीक है, बस एक बारी FSC कर ली तो फिर ज़िंदगी आसान, पैसा ही पैसा. फिर एक बारी तू इंजीनियरिंग कर ली. और आज से 20 साल पहले कितने लोग थे जो आर्ट्स की तरफ गए हैं या किस तरफ गए हैं. पहले 2-3 प्रोफेशन थे. आप यहाँ डॉक्टर बन सकते थे, या आप इंजीनियर बन सकते थे, या आप लॉयर बन सकते थे. ठीक है, उसके अलावा कौन से मर्दों के लिए प्रोफेशन थे जो कि एक्सेप्टेबल थे? नोबडी वुड. जॉब्स भी नहीं थी और ना वो एक्सेप्टेबल थे फैमिलीज़ को. सो व्हेन यू बेसिकली टॉक अबाउट मैस्कुलिनिटी और ये मसले और ये फक बॉय वाली चीज़ें, इट ऑल कम्स डाउन टू कि यार आज भी हम वही बातें कर रहे हैं. आज भी कितनी दफ़ा होता है आप अपने ब्रोस के साथ, बॉयज़ के साथ बैठते हो और वो इस तरह की बातें करते हैं, एंड विच इज़ बिजार कि आजकल के टाइम में भी लोग वो बातें कर रहे हैं.
So you have, I know, Broccoli, you have like a group of, you know, guy friends, and so you have, Broccoli and I, we're, you know, we go way back, but you have like your core group of guy friends, right? And you have one group that you hang out with on a regular basis. You have me and, you know, a few others. When you and let's be very honest here, right? So when you get together with the guys, when you're hanging out, what are the topics of conversation there? You know, what do you guys normally talk?
So जो मेरा core group है, वहाँ पे बड़ी varied conversation है, बड़ी अच्छी conversation, because they're all like me.
Okay.
And that is why we have been friends for over 20 years now. We've been friends since school till date. Now all of them are married. They have kids. And it's amazing. And they're masculine, but they are family people. They are people who can talk about like अभी जब हम आते हुए बात कर रहे थे, so I was out with my 2 boys last weekend, and you know, I learned so much about properties and गाड़ियाँ और property खरीदना, बेचना, land के बारे में, which I don't have an idea about. That's not my forte. And so ranging from there, there is obviously conversation about families, conversation about बच्चों के बारे में, पैसे के बारे में, मुल्क के हालात के बारे में, then you know the odd इधर उधर की बातें, पुरानी चीज़ें reminisce करना. But then there's a whole group of men that I used to be friends with who are married, but all they talk about is, and openly कितने बेशर्मी से बैठ के वो बता रहे होते हैं कि oh I cheated on, मैंने इसके साथ, इस बच्ची के साथ मेरा सीन ऑन हो गया, मैंने ये बच्ची डाउन कर दी. It's kind of embarrassing and I don't enjoy it. मतलब दुनिया में और भी बहुत सारी चीज़ें हैं यार बात करने को. अगर बात करनी है लड़कियों के बारे में तो बात वो करो कि, so my problem with the world is you can have your opinion about something, but if women are not safe in your country, kids are not safe in your country, your minorities are not safe in the country, your LGBTQ, whatever your beliefs are on that, is not safe. Rights सबके पास होने चाहिए, safety सबका एक हक है. जब वो मसला नहीं तो वो मसला है. अगर बात करनी है तो इन चीज़ों में बात करो ना, इस पे बात नहीं करते. दे टॉक अबाउट एक माचोइज्म जो हमारे अंदर है ना कि यार अगर हमने स्कोर अपना जो है वो ब्रो मेरा स्कोर तो इतना हो गया है, मैंने इतनी बच्चियाँ डाउन कर ली भाई, मतलब आजकल के ज़माने में कौन ऐसी बातें करता है.
Body count. Yeah.
So it depends what kind of circle, but alhamdulillah अल्लाह का बड़ा शुक्र है कि the core group of friends that I have, they are people who had good childhoods.
Okay.
Because I'm going to dive, the reason why I'm mentioning this is I'm going to dive deeper into it later in the show.
Yeah.
And they're people who are family people and have values. I think it's imperative to have values.
So the reason I asked you this question is because we were talking about, you know, influences and where this idea of masculinity comes from, right? And these are all scripts that we follow, and we get these scripts starting from, I think for everyone, for most guys like me, the first script that you get, because I think, you know, for me, we're all basically actors, and we're given these identities or these roles that we have to play, right, when you're born. So you're a son, you're someone's brother, you are, you know, someone's friend, and then you're a Pakistani, you know, or whatever country it is that you identify as, and then your religious identity and all of those things. Excuse me. So these are all scripts that you're given, you know, to sort of play. And so as a man, I think your first role model, or the first, you know, as a man, I think the first role model that you have is your dad.
Is your father.
Is your father. And then, you know, other males in your life, cousins, uncles, etc., etc. Phir jab aap school jaate ho, you know. So for me, you know, one of the reasons why my concept of masculinity is a little different from you know, most other people, is because I went to a co-ed school, right? And then I went to a co-ed school for like 8-9 years, and then I went to an all boys school, and there was a huge gap between how you view girls. There are obviously underlying similarities, but then there's also a gap, and how you view a woman as a human and not just someone, you know, that you're going to marry and someday sleep with. So these scripts are important, and the reason I ask you that is because I think we as men need to be very aware of the scripts that we're following throughout our lives, right? And I'm sure you will dig into that deeper. And I know for a fact that I make at this age a very conscious effort to be around people who are following a script, or who subscribe to a script that I want to follow throughout, you know, the rest of my life. And you're one of them, right? So so people who, you know, men specifically, that I can go to and talk about and you and I have both very recently gone through a lot in our lives. Yeah. And I think it's important to be able to open up to your guy friends about more than just, you know, sports or cars or things that you want to buy, or, you know, all of those things are great, and those feed into who we are as leaders. And so it's important for us to, those are the roles that we have as men. But also it's important for us to have that support system within our male friend groups, where I can be vulnerable, where I can talk to someone about my insecurities, I can talk to someone about, you know, what my life plans are, my fear of failure. And when we've had the discussion throughout, you know, that has been a constant theme over the past couple of years, where there is a very real fear of failure, and, you know, how is it going to affect you, how is it going to affect the people in your life, what is it going to mean for everyone. And it is very difficult for someone to be vulnerable and have those conversations, which is why it's equally important for you to be able to build that space and have those conversations with, you know, with the men in your life. I know there is something that you want to add.
No, I pretty much agree 2-3 चीज़ों से, और वो बहुत ज़रूरी है. एक तो positive male influences in your life. I think growing up with a good strong father is very important. उस दिन मेरी एक friend है, I met her after a very long time, and we were having a conversation about kids, and बड़ी खूबसूरत बात की कि अमेरिका में, चलो हमारे यहाँ पे तो कल्चर ही नहीं है ना, तो हम अपने तो छोड़ ही दें. अमेरिका में जब आप बच्चा अडॉप्ट करते हैं तो कितना ज़्यादा प्रोसेस है. वो वेरिफिकेशन, आपका घर देखते हैं, आपकी फैमिली देखते हैं, आपके ऑक्यूपेशन देखते हैं, आपका क्रिमिनल रिकॉर्ड देखते हैं, आपकी हेल्थ चेक्स होती हैं, आपका सब कुछ होता है. बट जब बच्चा पैदा करते हैं तो कुछ नहीं कोई पूछता कि भाई माँ बाप क्या मेंटली स्टेबल हैं, क्या कंपैटिबल हैं, क्या वो बाप एक रोल मॉडल बन सकता है, क्या वो माँ एक बन सकती है. बिकॉज देर आर कपल्स आउट देयर हु, आई एम सॉरी टू से, फकिंग इनसेन, एंड दे शुड नॉट बी अ कपल. पहली बात तो यार आई एम अमेज्ड कि हमारे यहाँ पे कोई सिस्टम नहीं है. आज हम 2023 में बैठे हैं, AI ML की एज में बैठे हैं और कोई सिस्टम नहीं है. हैव यू एवर थॉट अबाउट दिस कि जब बच्चा अडॉप्ट करने जाते हो तो कितना चेक एंड बैलेंसेस है, लेकिन जब बच्चा पैदा करने जाते हो तो कोई चेक एंड बैलेंस नहीं है. सेकंड चीज़ जो है वो ये है कि हम लोग कहते हैं आज के, जिस तरह आप कह रहे हो कि यू नो accept vulnerability and be vulnerable and talk about, but the society does not allow you
Does
to.
not allow you.
We are still adhering to the age old masculinity की definition. Society कितने वो समझते हैं, ओ ये ते बच्चा weak है साडा,
Yeah.
ठीक है जी, बच्चा weak है, वो बेचारा ज़रा वो क्या कहते हैं, बेचारा ज़रा की रह गया है, कमज़ोर रह गया दिमाग, हाँ ठीक है ना, इस तरह की बातें करते हैं घरों पे. मैंने खुद 1000 दफ़ा होते देखी हैं बातें. अल्हम्दुलिल्लाह मेरी फैमिली में नहीं होती एंड आई एम श्योर तेरी फैमिली में भी नहीं होती, बट इस तरह की बातें. एंड देन देयर इज अ ह्यूज रोल. एक लड़का जो जिसकी हु इज इन टच विद हिज फेमिनिन साइड, कितनी लड़कियां हैं जो ऐसे लड़कों को डेट करती हैं और मैरी करती हैं, चल डेट करती हैं, ठीक है. फिर तीसरी चीज, हम बड़े होते हैं, एक तो मेल इन्फ्लुएंसर्स हमारे जो होते हैं, ठीक है, और वो मेल इन्फ्लुएंसर्स जो हैं ऑब्वियसली उनका भी पहले इसी तरह प्रोग्रामिंग हुई हुई है ना. वो किसी और दुनिया किसी और सियारे से तो नहीं आए, उनकी भी वही पुरानी ट्रेडिशनल प्रोग्रामिंग हुई हुई है. फिर हमारे रोल मॉडल्स क्या हैं? सुपरमैन, जेम्स बॉन्ड, 007.
Yeah.
The definition of toxic masculinity for me.
Yeah.
Me and you don't stand a chance, bro.
Yeah.
So the conversation needs to stop where we are attacking each other as genders.
Yeah.
The conversation needs to happen where we are talking about के मसला क्या है,
Yeah.
and how do we solve it. I don't want to sit here and discuss what masculinity is. So things like James Bond, Superman,
Yeah, Superman.
ये deep rooted impact है हमारी psyche पे as men.
Superman is love, bro. I'm
That's
sorry.
exactly the problem. Stop touching yourself. We're on camera.
I was touching my chest.
Let's just stop. Okay. We want people to see this and not Phoebe wala scene. My eyes.
By the way, we're two very heterosexual guys. We love
Extremely.
each other, but we just wanted to make that clear.
And we will do this a lot.
Yeah.
Because we do.
Yeah, and you know, because there's a lot of he, she, z. I cannot be bothered. Anyway, yes, please.
So, coming back to my point, you asshole. Things like James Bond, आपके Superman, deep rooted हमारी psyche में, ठीक है? And they embody everything that an ideal, stereotypical masculine man does. And we struggle to actually identify what a masculine man is and what he needs to do, और उस बेचारे की identity क्या है. इसके बाद हम बात करेंगे थोड़ा सा, जब हम जाएंगे, जो मेरा प्लान है, if you allow me, is what are the challenges, ठीक है?
So sorry. Do you think there's like a spectrum of what masculinity is, where you know someone is a little more in touch with his feminine side, and then but they're still at least to themselves.
यार मेरे लिए देखो, I'm not an expert, but मेरे लिए एक toxic masculinity का जो concept है वो ये है कि a guy who brushes aside his feelings, brushes aside the fact that he can be vulnerable, brushes aside the fact that he can be wrong. One of the problems that we're facing in the world is people have stopped taking accountability for when they're wrong and when they fuck up. And that for me is the sign of toxic masculinity. और यार तुम मुझे ये बताओ, एक masculine बंदा, हम जानते हैं बहुत सारों को, ठीक है? I think people who are watching this will know a lot of them as well. Stop asshole.
Yeah, I mean, could be our own friends, but anyway.
Yeah. So कितनी दफ़ा वो लड़कियां हैं जो ऐसे बंदे को चूज़ करती हैं, and this is a huge, like, I'm not trying to target women, but I'm saying कि कितनी दफ़ा this is a huge deal for men when they get rejected by women for being not masculine enough, whereas they are masculine but they are not toxic masculine. कितनी दफ़ा वो लड़कियां ऐसे बंदों को डेट करती हैं, and that is a huge deal. जब हम बचपन से ये देखते आ रहे हैं कि लड़कियां चूज़ ही इनको कर रही हैं, जो बदतमीज़ हैं, जो ऊंची आवाज़ में बात करते हैं, जो मारते पीटते हैं, जो अब्यूसिव हैं, जो किसी की सुनते नहीं हैं, जिनका काम है कि भाई बॉयज़ के साथ फिरना, इधर उधर लड़कियों की बातें करना, ये करना. जब खुद मैंने, and I'm sorry for all the girls who I know have done this, but this is a fact. मैंने खुद इतनी लड़कियों के मुंह से सुना है कि भाई बोरिंग होते हैं यार, टॉक्सिक मैन चाहिए, टॉक्सिक मैन. मैंने अपनी जुबान से 1000 लड़कियां जिनको मैं पर्सनली जानता हूँ मैंने ये सुना है.
मजा नहीं आता.
And then these are the biggest contributing factors to health and safety of women.
Yeah.
This very mindset
This clash.
this very mindset is the biggest threat to the safety of women.
It's a little screwed up because I mean, you're asking for something that is a threat to your, to your sanity, to your safety, to everything, but that is the very thing you want.
It's insane, and they realize this once they've hit a certain age.
Yeah.
कि पीस क्या है, एक अच्छा डिसेंट आदमी क्या होता है, एक फैमिली मैन क्या होता है, एक प्रोवाइडर क्या होता है, एक प्रोटेक्टर किस तरह से नज़र आता है, उसकी क्या ट्रेड्स होती है.
So we were watching, to your point, we were watching ironically John Abraham की मूवी थी न्यू यॉर्क. तो उसमें कटरीना की जो कोई आई थिंक देयर इन अ नाइट क्लब और उसका कोई पर्स लेके भागता है.
हाँ.
और जॉन अब्राहम साहब भागते हैं कुत्तों की तरह, he goes out into the rain ignoring his own safety and this and that, and he retrieves her purse and he comes back. And then there's this other guy who is vying for her attention and he doesn't. He's like, it's a purse, like let it go. And for me I was like, the second guy makes sense, because why would he go running after? Because logic, right? New York is not a safe city. The guy probably has a gun. It's a freaking purse, right? With what, maybe kitne $1,000 mein honge, I don't know. Not worth getting shot over. So being a policeman, he's like, it's fine, we'll find it. Baithe hain aaram se. But the the girl I was dating at that time was like, dude, John Abraham, like that's the kind of guy I want. I was like, but he put himself in danger. He ran it. Fazul harkat. Nahi, aisa banna chahiye. And I was like, dude, like, doesn't make sense to me. So you would prefer someone who goes out of his way to put everyone in harm's way, including himself, just to get your freaking purse, over a guy who has logic and is like, all right, the cost of running all that way is going to be too much. It could cost me my life. There's other things that could happen. Let's just take a step back, sit down. It's a purse. But women would prefer that guy. And to your point, they love that.
They do.
They love it.
They like huge gestures.
Yeah.
They like these over-the-top emotions and everything, until one day when they realize that it's too much to handle.
Yeah.
And it does get too much to handle. और दूसरी बात ये है कि तुम भैंचोद ऐसी फिल्में देखती क्यों हो?
यार बस.
और उससे भी बड़ी बात ये, फिल्म का जरा नाम तो बताओ.
New York. Ironically, New York. Ironically.
अच्छा वो वाली. यार वो बड़ी controversial
Yeah.
मूवी थी. हाँ हाँ. अच्छा वो वाली मूवी. हाँ सही है.
Yeah, I mean Katrina का
ठीक है.
सीन भी था उसमें.
और हो सकता है यार उसके पर्स में कोई उसका फ़ोन हो जिससे उसने सेल्फी खींचनी हो. फ़िल्टर के बारे में लड़कियां आजकल ना बड़ी सेंटी होती हैं. उनका फ़िल्टर गुम हो जाए ना तो वो फिर एक हफ्ता खाना नहीं खा सकती बेचारी.
तुम भेजो चाह रहे हो कि मतलब हमें जूतियाँ मारी.
यार फैक्ट है. क्या आप बताएं कि आप लड़के फ़िल्टर नहीं इस्तेमाल करते?
मैं तो नहीं करता. मैं तो पिक्चर्स भी नहीं लगाता
ना. वो विद ड्यू रीज़न.
Okay.
अच्छा.
I shall get back
So
to you.
the whole point is that it's all about, again coming to a point we touched earlier, it's all about growing up who, I was reading a research, 60% women do not have a positive relationship with a male figure growing up. 60% of them in the current world. ठीक है? They do not have a positive influence with a male while growing up. And men also do not have a positive influence from their male guardians, parents growing up, and that is where it begins.
Yeah.
जो एक बड़ी casually आप term throw करते हैं ना, daddy issues, ये actually एक बड़ा deep rooted है. It's not a joke. एक बच्चा या एक बच्ची who was abandoned or abused or had a really bad childhood or an absent father, यार उनकी गलती नहीं है. उन बेचारों को पता ही नहीं है. How can you blame them for having certain traumas and traits? ट्रॉमा को तो हम एक्सेप्ट करते हैं. आजकल तो ये बहुत बज़वर्ड बन चुका है ट्रॉमा. जो नहीं भी होता तो आजकल बच्चे उसको ट्रॉमा बना देते हैं. क्या वो बिल्ली मेरी रोटी ले आके चलेगी? ट्रॉमा. ठीक है ना. वो बच्चे ने मेरा टिफ़िन ले लिया. ट्रॉमा नहीं होता यार. ये मैंने बात थोड़ा बात आ जाओ. हर चीज़ को ना थ्रो किया करो. दूसरी बात ये, how the hell is that kid supposed to know what's right and wrong when they did not have, and it's imperative to have a male figure.
Yeah.
You can learn the feminine side, you can learn so much from your mother, but you need a father figure. You need a strong father figure who has morals, who is teaching you all the right stuff, who is balancing you as a human being, where you have your feminine side in touch and where you have other stuff as well. ठीक है? जब उस बेचारे, whoever your ex was, maybe I don't know who she is, I don't know उसका क्या background and how, what kind of.
तुम नहीं मिले उससे?
मैं नहीं मिला उससे, and इस पे तो हम बाद में बात करेंगे कि मैं क्यों नहीं मिला. अच्छा, so it's not their fault. Again, coming back, it is imperative. It is so important to have a good, and it is so important to have good male company once you're a grown up, in your teens, after your teens. So important to have good male friends. Boys, please change the conversation बच्चियों से, women booze और football, women booze sports से बाहर निकल के यार कुछ खुदा का वास्ते कुछ और गुफ्तगू कर लो. We've suffered. You and I have suffered. We've been in those circles and we had to literally fight our way out of it. And that mentality, we had this, जो हम इधर बैठ के बात करें, maybe you and I had the same mentality.
Yeah, we did.
We did.
I'm going to be very honest. We did. Like at one point, and to be honest, it didn't come from within. I did it because I wanted to fit in. I wanted to, fit in with the guys. And because that was a conversation and I was like, all right, this is going to make me feel cool or look cool or be a part of that, what you herd mentality hai hamari, wanting to fit in. That's why I did it. I'm not saying that I'm an angel. Yeah, it didn't appeal to me at a certain point. It did, I'm a red-blooded guy, talk about women, talk about, and we are built that way, right?
Yeah.
Men and women, not going to exclude them from this, but we're built to excel, we're built to challenge ourselves. So that was the challenge, right? Who's going to be able to get more? And it always, because for some reason I'm bad with women, it was always an issue with me in my head, like why are guys with game getting more women than I am? Because I have never had game and I still don't, right? So it was a challenge, and that's where the conversation needs to move away from.
मैं तुम्हें ना एक example देता हूँ. There was this guy who acts very macho, ठीक है?
Yeah.
Proper masculine man and all that. And he once got so jealous because he was trying to hit on a girl who was bi, and one of his bi friends sort of, mingled with the girl, and basically वो बंदी took the girl away, उसके नाक के नीचे से ले गई. वो बंदा माइंड कर गया यार. मतलब इमेजिन कि कितनी फ्रैजाइल है मेल ईगो इन हरकतों की वजह से, ये जिस तरह से डिजाइन किया कि यार फेयर गेम. If women are attracted to women, who gives a shit? Of course they will be attracted to women. Have you seen them? Have you seen most women? They're gorgeous and they are more evolved. Sorry to say, I think women have evolved more than men in the last 20-30 years, and hands down, मैं hand on heart मैंने अपनी आंखों से देखा. They are making bolder decisions. They are taking things head on. They are progressing in their careers. They are fighting for their causes. ठीक है? कुछ causes बड़ी exaggerated हैं because of external factors, and we're not going to discuss politics and all that, so let's not go there. But women have evolved and men need to step up. अब conversation बदलनी है ना दोस्त. Conversation क्या है? It's no longer that men need to go to therapy. Yes, men need to go to therapy. Another stat that you and I were discussing before the show, like 80% men out of 100 जो suicide करते हैं, and only 1% of them are in therapy. I do not know. मैं उंगलियों में नहीं गिन सकता वो बंदे जो थेरेपी करते हैं. लड़कियां बहुत जाती हैं. They try, they do it, they are consistent with it, they make it a point, whether it's working or not. Men never. I barely ever talk to any man who has been in therapy. And this conversation, देखो, the conversation is not about do men need to go to therapy, men should go to therapy. Oh fuck yes, they need to go to therapy. I think everybody in today's world needs to go to therapy. What is a masculine man, this, that, ये ख़त्म हो गया ना. अब ये है कि भाई जो socially constructed identity of a man, उसको ख़त्म करो ना यार society से. The society needs to help men and women by helping men they will be less, they will probably go to therapy, they will be less of a threat to women, they will be lesser assholes than what we've seen in the last few years. And very horrendous rape cases and, you know, these cold-blooded murder cases that we've witnessed in the last few years, only from Islamabad.
Yeah.
Finally, we might see something changing, because mera problem ye hai. I do not want to live in a world where my sister, where my girlfriend, where my daughter is unsafe. And I have heard horrendous stories of what men do. And I've seen it as well in my eyes. And ab hum baat karte hain, you know, there's so many times we call them feminazis and we attack women. But what exactly do they do? Is the point. वो क्या करें और? अगर वो आवाज़ ना उठाएं, वो मी टू ना करें, तो वो क्या करेंगी? What exactly would they do? क्या वो बस चुप करके बैठ जाएं? But नहीं, जिस तरह मैंने कहा, women have evolved. They don't care. They want to talk. They will call out people. So यार थोड़ा सा ये socially constructed norms को fight करना है. आपस में लड़ना बंद कर दें. आपस में एक दूसरे से लड़ना बंद कर दें. अच्छे मर्दों को support करें. अच्छी औरतों को तंग मत करें. और अच्छे बुरे की भी अगेन बात वो है कि कोई अच्छा बुरा जो है ना पेट से नहीं पैदा होता, हालात उसको बना देते हैं. हमने देखा है how society view men and how men view themselves is the conversation.
So I agree. I also feel that we still need to keep going back to history, society's history a little bit, because that informs the conversation, right? I love looking at history because it really helps me understand psychology of people in general. You know, it could, चाहे वो किसी मुल्क की हो, चाहे मेरी अपनी personal, you know, history हो, या मेरी personal psychology हो, it helps me understand that, right? So if you look at history of society in general, right, we've had for the longest time patriarchal societies, and not just in humans, in our ये जो the closest relatives, biological relatives जो हैं, you know, which is monkeys. उसमें भी जो societies हैं, they are very patriarchal in nature. ठीक है? So and they're all, because they're patriarchal, they are male led. आप हमारे historical heroes देख लो, they're all military men, right? I forget the names right now, but
Crew card और वो सब.
I mean, if you go way back, like
Yeah.
to Pakistani history, पता नहीं कौन तुगलक था, खिलजी, और मुझे इस वक्त नाम नहीं याद आ रहे, and I'm annoyed at myself for that, but all of these people were military people, right? So that culture is where we come from, where to succeed in this world, you have to, you know, be rapacious, you have to be, you know, be aggressive, you have to be willing to take up the sword and be very tunnel visioned about what you want to do, and it's all about what you want and how you're going to get it, without, because the contrary, which is, you know, अच्छा यार मैं इसके बारे में थोड़ा सा सोच लूँ, उसके बारे में थोड़ा सा सोच लूँ, मेरी माँ क्या सोचेगी, बाप क्या सोचेगा, उन पे असर क्या होगा, those things are seen as weakness, right? So we have the tunnel vision and then we go for it no matter the cost, and I think that's what's built into society and culture, and that's why, you know, masculinity is where it is right now. So for a more conscientious, again skewering the pronunciation, for people like you and me who critically think about these things, right, at one point, if you think about this too much and you start thinking about iska asar kya hai, what is the impact on people around me, and then by wider definition people in society in general, it comes to, in you know, to quote Jordan B. Peterson, you then want to at one point castrate yourself, because that is what it will take for you to let go of all of this, you know, कि आप ये सब कुछ छोड़ दो, you put that aside, because then your intrinsic wiring as a man, it's either that, or to, you know, to remove that and to make society a safer place, you have to become more, you know, considerate of women, maybe a little more effeminate, more in touch with your feminine side. Crisis wahan pe aata hai. And then that's where men are like, no, we want to take back what being a man really is. And then again, coming back to my point about Andrew Tate, you know, glasses and all, that's the conversation that he feeds into. And that is why everyone, men especially, are so drawn to him. Even the more, and yes, there are good things he says about discipline and all of those things, and what it is to be a man and protect your wife and protect your woman and all of those things. But there is also a toxic element to it, and that's where this toxic element is really attractive, because we're wired that way.
You can look back at history and you can study all of these things, but when I look back at history and study all of these patterns and these conversations, I think we missed the point where we fail to basically factor one thing, that women were eventually going to evolve into stronger beings. They don't need a man like that anymore.
Yeah.
You can have all of these conversations, and we have fucked up historically.
Yeah.
ठीक है? I am a firm believer कि ठीक है, हिस्ट्री को पढ़ना, उसमें जाके देखना कि यार ओरिजिन कहाँ, इस प्रॉब्लम का ओरिजिन क्या है, ये प्रॉब्लम स्टार्ट कहाँ से होती है. बट देन अल्लाह ने फ्री विल आपको इसीलिए दिया है कि आपका दिमाग बड़ी खूबसूरत चीज़ है, आप उसको 40 साल की उम्र में भी रीवायर कर सकते हैं.
Yeah.
जब आपने कुछ करना है ना तो आप करते हैं. आपको खुदा ने इतनी ताकत दी है दिमाग को आपको कि व्हेन यू आर हेल बेंट कि मैंने बदलना है, आप बदलते हैं. जब आपका बॉस लेटर कराता है दफ्तर में तो बदलते हैं ना. ऐसा ही है. जब बाहर जाते हैं और वीज़ा लगाने के लिए जलील होते हैं यहाँ पे एम्बेसियों में तो बदलते हैं ना. वही लोग, तुम तो रहे हो दुबई में भाई, वही लोग जो यहाँ पे हैं वो दुबई जाते हैं, इंसान के बच्चे बनते हैं कि नहीं बनते हैं. क्यों? चेक एंड बैलेंसेस हैं. एक तमीज़ का सोसाइटी का एक एलिमेंट है. एक सोसाइटी में कुछ नॉर्म्स हैं, कोई रूल्स और रेगुलेशंस हैं, हमारे नहीं हैं और बहुत सारी दुनिया में नहीं है. सो yes, history is fine. You need to argue कि यार are men actually designed in a way जहाँ पे ये सब है ही है उनके अंदर. I don't believe that. I feel we can be anyone who we want to be. When we see so much damage around us, the only choice we have is to fucking change and to do something and to stand with women who are grieving and to stand with the society, बच्चों के साथ, माँओं के साथ. I mean, it's a pretty straightforward conversation for me. I don't think it's that hard to change. I don't think if you put your mind into it. और एक और बात जो मैं और तू बड़ी बात करते हैं, यार तू ऑनेस्टली मुझे बता, हैंड ऑन हार्ट, कितने मर्द हैं जो इमोशनली इंटेलिजेंट हैं?
I mean, yeah.
1%? Less than 1%? Yeah. Dumb as fuck. They can't read a room. देख रहे हैं कि भाई a woman is PMSing. She's cranky. She is going through her bad phases or whatever. उंगली करेंगे. क्यों कर रहे हो यार? Read the fucking room.
Tone deaf.
Tone deaf.
Very tone deaf.
That's the word. They're fucking tone deaf. And I can't stress that enough. कि कितना बड़ा ये एक मसला है. एक होता है desensitize होना, एक होता है कि completely tone deaf होते हैं. और हम desensitize भी हैं और हम tone deaf भी हैं. We are made to believe from a very young age कि actual value जो बंदे की आती है ना, वो dominate, control and to be successful at any cost. बहुत छोटी एज में बताया जाता है कि यार यही है तुम्हारा काम इस दुनिया में. This is how you will be remembered. तुम्हारी legacy बनेगी. Extremely large number of extremely large number of
तुम्हें नंबर 1 तो नहीं आता
शायद. अच्छा, extremely large number of boys or males have never.
That sounded wrong, by the way. Anyway, go on.
Yeah, no. अच्छा ठीक है.
Point अपना.
Damn it, man! I've told. बड़ा ही फैंस चला दिया. अच्छा, so extremely large number of male when they are growing up have never received an actual word of encouragement from their elders. And how many people have you seen that actually have never received a real encouragement for doing something rather than money or power or sports? कि एक बच्चा अगर फेल हो गया है या कुछ उसने ट्राई किया, और a kid who wants to be a guitarist or a kid who wants to do something art side पे, उसको कितनी encouragement मिलती है यार. वो जलील किया जाता है बेचारे को.
It's a sign of weakness.
It's a sign of weakness.
Yeah.
This is where the problem comes from. ठीक है. And according to a research, अभी ये जो अमेरिका में, मतलब अल्लाह माफ़ करेगा, जो बहुत सारी शूटिंग होती है स्कूल्स में और ये वो, उसमें एक जो चीज़ सामने आई थी, एक बंदे ने कॉम, आई डोंट नो हु इट वाज, somebody said the most dangerous person in the world is a young male teen or in his early 20s who's broke. He's the most dangerous person in the world, and we have enough evidence to support that. Historically, ठीक है. So बच्चों को ना इतना, अब जिस तरह वो 3 Idiots में एक बात, वो बारी बारी जो वो पूरी मूवी जो बेस्ड ऑन दिस यू नो कॉन्सेप्ट दैट बच्चों को ना आप लगा ग्रेड्स के पीछे लगा रहे थे, एक्सेलेंस के पीछे नहीं सिखाते. एक बच्चे ने मैकेनिक बनने दो यार, एक को ड्राइविंग पसंद है करने दो यार. बच्चों को पैसे बनाना का आर्ट आना चाहिए. मेरे नज़दीक बच्चे को ना स्किल आना चाहिए. ग्रेड्स, तूने जितना कुछ पढ़ा था कितनी दफ़ा यूज़ हुआ है, कितनी दफ़ा ग्रेड्स पूछे, कितनी दफ़ा तेरी डिग्री मांगी है नौकरी में. Very few times where you actually people say कि oh इसकी डिग्री में इसने अच्छा इतना, oh तेरा GPA इतना है, तेरी परसेंटेज इतनी है, तेरे परसेंटाइल इतना है. I don't think they give a fuck. जैसे कि कितना एक्सपीरियंस कितना है. And I think that is where the problem comes from. हम इनकरेज नहीं करते, हम डिस्करेज करते हैं. वो इतने डिस्करेज हो जाते हैं, हम उनको ये नहीं सिखाते. और बच्चे फिर क्या करें, गलत कंपनी में बैठेंगे जब माँ बाप से सपोर्ट नहीं मिलेगी, बहन भाइयों से सपोर्ट नहीं मिलेगी, गलत लोगों में बैठेंगे. जिस उम्र में आपको ये सोचना चाहिए कि अच्छा यार हाउ डू आई स्टार्ट फोकसिंग टूवर्ड्स एक्सीलेंस, मेकिंग मनी. एंटरप्रेन्योरशिप क्या होती है, छोटा बिजनेस कर सकता हूँ, नहीं कर सकता, घर बैठे क्या कर सकता हूँ, जो कि आजकल बच्चे कर रहे हैं बहुत सक्सेसफुली कर रहे हैं. इस पे नहीं बात होगी. बच्चा ब्रोक होगा, फाइनेंशियली चैलेंज होगा, जब उसके दोस्त एक आईफोन लेके बैठे होंगे और उस बेचारे के पास नहीं होगा तो वो क्या करेगा, फ्रस्ट्रेट होगा ना. सो आई गो बैक, मेरे लिए द बिगेस्ट प्रॉब्लम आर पेरेंट्स. आई एम सॉरी टू से, एंड इफ एनी पेरेंट हु इज वाचिंग दिस फील्स अटैक्ड, आई एम वेरी सॉरी, बट दिस इज अ फैक्ट. It all comes down to the upbringing of the child. Whether it's a girl, whether it's a boy, it's their upbringing. और आपकी एक bad decision से where you are not fit as a couple or fit as a human being or not in the right place mentally, आप अगले 15 साल 20 साल लोगों की बच्चा वो जिंदगियां बर्बाद करता है. And then in one shape or the other.
And then those kids, I mean, you leave it to them to fix themselves. And you don't know if they're going to fix themselves or not. You know?
और या तो वो अपने आप को फिक्स करेंगे या वो दुनिया को उड़ा देंगे.
या वो दुनिया को उड़ा देंगे, exactly. You know, so and then what's appalling is how parents don't want that accountability. They don't want to say, okay, we are, you know, maybe in part even responsible for this, for what our kids.
We did our best is no longer acceptable.
It's not,
just like when men use not all men is no longer acceptable. इसी तरह we did our best is no longer acceptable. You put your hand up and you admit that yes we messed up. Rather than blaming the kid for the पूरी ज़िंदगी आप उसको कर दें. एक ऊपर से बच्चों में, लड़कों में जो misplaced sense of superiority डाल दी जाती है. हमारे घर में मैंने एक दफ़ा देखा, the only time I saw this very toxic thing, वरना अल्हम्दुलिल्लाह हमारे घरों में ऐसे नहीं होता हमारी फैमिली में, कि आई थिंक मेरा बड़ा भाई था, वो नौकरी पे गया और उसके आने से पहले ना वो सालन लग, खाना तब खुलेगा जब वो कमाऊ पूत घर आ जाएगा. He didn't like that. Neither did I. And I was like, नहीं, sorry. We raised our voice against it. We protested and we won. ये जो misplaced sense of superiority है ना यार, ख़त्म करो मर्दों से. ये बड़ा मसला है. उनको खाना बनाना सिखाओ. बेसिक नीड्स उनको पता होना चाहिए कि यार ज़िंदगी गुजारने, खाना कैसे पकाना है, कपड़े कैसे इस्त्री करने हैं, बेड कैसे बनाना है, यार बड़ी बेसिक चीज़ें.
Let them earn it.
Let them earn it. One of the best things my mother did, I remember, and one of my most fondest memories growing up, मैं साथ बैठा कॉपी पे होमवर्क कर रहा था किचन में जब when she used to be cooking, which resulted in my love for cooking and food and everything. And I can't thank her enough for that.
Yeah.
I'm so glad that I'm somebody who does not rely on a third person to cook for me or do anything. यार ये बड़ी ज़रूरी है, और आजकल के वोक ज़माने में तो बहुत ही ज़रूरी है ना कि बच्चों को ये आने चाहिए. Now, what needs to be talked about? I will ask you this question. How do we solve this problem? क्या करना चाहिए? क्या बात, हमने ये भी डिस्कस कर लिया कि प्रॉब्लम आती कहाँ से है, हमने ये भी डिस्कस कर लिया कि ट्रेट्स क्या हैं, हमने ये भी डिस्कस कर लिया कि चैलेंजेस क्या हैं. What needs to be done?
So for me, I think it begins with, you know, when they say charity begins at home, it begins with, for me, home is right here.
Yeah, you.
Me. It's you.
That's the only person you're in control of.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So for me, it begins with me, right? And then being aware of what my quote unquote wiring is, what my failures are, what my shortcomings are, being aware and then trying to fix it. It's never going to be 100%. But I think as long as I can try, it's a lifelong journey. As long as I try, as long as before I go to bed at night, I think, yeah, did I mess up somewhere? Was there something I could have done? And I still do that, right? I still think about, yeah, मैंने आज अब्बा जी से ऊंची आवाज में बात की, I should not have done that. Yeah, I could have, kept my mouth shut for those 2 seconds and everything else would have been a little less heated up, right?
Yeah, you need to do that more often.
Okay. No. So things like that, right? Accountability. So sorry, awareness. The first thing is awareness, and the second thing is accountability. हम जहाँ पे आपकी accountability आप थोड़ी सी लेना शुरू करेंगे, that's I think where the change begins.
आप थोड़ी सी लेना शुरू करेंगे.
Accountability की बात हो रही है.
अच्छा.
तुम anyway.
दूसरी चीज़ जो मैं बॉयज़ के साथ, लड़कों के साथ, मर्दों के साथ, मर्द हजरात, बॉयज़, बच्चे, उनको एक थोड़ी सी बात करना चाहूँगा. The rise of empowered women is not a threat to your masculinity. They're your allies. They're not your fucking enemies. दूसरी चीज़ ये कि यार इग्नाइट करें एक कम्युनिटी बॉयज़ के साथ, एक बॉयज़ के साथ, एक a lot of the time I've seen, and I have been guilty of this, where I had so many female friends in my life, because मेरी जब मर्दों से बस हो गई थी ना, जब मैंने देखा कि यार ये सारे चूतिए एक ही काम कर रहे हैं, इनको और कुछ नहीं ज़िंदगी में पता एक्सेप्ट एक ही चीज़ के पीछे भाग रहे हैं, ठीक है. So predominantly started hanging out with women more because I felt they were more genuine, the conversations were more evolved, it was easy. And then I came to a point where I realized कि यार इस पूरे प्रोसेस में मैं जो मेरे बॉयज़ असली, जो मेरे चड्डी बडीज़ हैं, उन बेचारों के साथ ज़्यादती, क्योंकि उनका तो कसूर नहीं है ना कि बाकी चूती हैं.
Exactly. Yeah.
So मैंने वो रीइग्नाइट किया कुछ साल पहले, and trust me, it's been amazing to reignite with the boys, बचपन वाले, and you guys know who you are. So we need to ignite these real connections with the boys or the men, or find a mentor. I have a mentor. I have had 3 or 4 tremendous mentors in my life.
You're welcome.
I said mentors.
I mean, men and or anyway.
If you ever want to learn how to ruin a conversation, follow this bastard. ठीक है. Feminism is not the death of men. Feminism का जो concept है, which has, I'm sorry to say, been slightly bastardized by some very meaningless campaigns. But जो actual इसका concept है, which is the Equal Right Amendments from the 1970s, जो कि शुरू हुआ था, I think that's a very good concept. I think we need to follow that. I think we need to be allies to make sure that there is no disparity and there is safety and there is equal opportunity for women. I think that needs to be talked about more than other stupid things that I don't want to waste my time talking about.
And I want, so adding to his point, I want women out there to know that that this conversation, one, is happening, that there are men, and I'm not talking about just the 2 of us, we're just 2 out of a whole population.
Bunch of people, yeah.
There are men out there here in Pakistan who are trying and are ready to have conversations. They're ready to sit down and listen to what's bothering you, what your challenges are, and be your allies. And yes, it's difficult, just like it's difficult for men to be vulnerable. I'm sure it's difficult for women as well. But there are men out there who are ready to have this conversation. So it just takes a bit of time and effort to wait and to, let yourself be a little open to the idea that men can be your allies.
Yeah, the concept of a powerful community among bros, जहाँ पे एक ब्रो को ये स्पेस मिले कि यार वो रो भी ले, जहाँ पे एक ब्रो को ये स्पेस मिल जाए कि जानी फाइनेंशियली फक हो गया. यार मर्द ये बात नहीं करते आपस में कि यार फाइनेंसेस डाउन है, बड़ा मसला है, इकोनॉमी आपको पता ही है, पूरी दुनिया में रिसेशन बहुत ज़्यादा.
You know why? Because you're seen as less of a leader. The fear is that you will be seen as less of a leader, of a man.
Thank you for saying that, yeah.
Because you aren't able to take care of your finances.
And trust me, we all have struggled with finances, with these things. And there is not a man out there who can say कि उसने कभी fuck up नहीं किया when it comes to career decisions, when it comes to finances, who's always had his shit together. And secondly, मैं actually बताऊँ, not probably the episode to talk about, but I feel humans never had their shit together.
Yeah.
Because हर साल जब आप 30 साल के होते हैं आपकी ज़िंदगी में challenges, villains, goals different होते हैं, वो हर साल ना upgrade हो जाते हैं. You never have your shit together. The concept of when people say na, oh, get your shit together, bro, nobody ever has their shit together. We are men in our late 30s, don't have our shit together, probably won't have our shit together for the next 20 years. Yes, there are things that we've learned, there are things that we don't do anymore, but you never ever have your shit together. So stop falling for that attack when somebody say, oh, get your shit together. और जब एक boy कोई रो रहा है कि वो, oh, come on यार, don't be a girl.
Or man up, man the fuck up.
Man the fuck. I mean, these are very, very stupid things to say. Powerful community boys को बनानी पड़ेगी आपस में vulnerable होने का space होना, आपस में financially vulnerable होने का space होना चाहिए. और ये चीज़ें ज़रूरी हैं because बहुत कम होता है कि सारे एक ही upper trajectory में जा रहे हो when it comes to relationships or finances or be it anything.
Yeah.
There's always somebody who's struggling and you have to be kind and you have to be accommodating towards them.
I love how you're marrying the concept of marriage, by the way, marrying the concepts of being powerful and also allowing vulnerability, because it takes being powerful to be vulnerable.
I think it's amazing when you are powerful and vulnerable. I think it's, for me, that's masculinity. The concept of honor, yaar, these are things we've forgotten. ये ना घटिया जो इंस्टाग्राम का कल्चर बन चुका है, frankly, which disgusts me. Honor, respect, integrity, love. ये बात मैं 150 दफ़ा तुझे कर चुका हूँ. मेरी अम्मा हमेशा एक बात करती हैं, बच्चों को ना 2 तरह की तरबियत मिलती है when they grow up. They are either raised on love or they are raised on survival. Kids who are raised on love will stand out like a sore thumb, and kids who are raised on survival will show from a mile away. It as clear as day. You and I both know.
Yeah.
We've seen these people. We've seen the two types.
Yeah.
It is clear as day. And I just again would like to say कि यार थोड़ा सा boys rethink, सोचना शुरू कर दो. Impulsive behaviors, impulsive patterns को challenge करो, accept ना करो कि मैं ऐसा ही हूँ. और मर्द तो होता ही ऐसा है. यार मर्द ऐसा नहीं होता. I'm sorry. I was raised by a father who was a gentleman, but was firm but होता है ना firm but gentle वाला कॉन्सेप्ट. मेरे अब्बा जी एक आँख यूँ देखते थे ना, हमारी ऐसी फटती थी ना कि मजाल नहीं कि कोई चूँ करते पूरे घर में. लेकिन उसके अलावा कभी अब्बा जी ने आवाज़ नहीं उठाई, कभी अब्बा जी ने कोई गलत बात नहीं की, कभी कोई ऐसी चीज़ नहीं, कभी मारा मोरा नहीं. ये so I've seen it.
And my memory of, one of my earliest memories of my dad, and I still think of that to this day, is, there's a picture somewhere of a maybe 1 year old, and he's opened his arms for me to walk to him, because I think I just started to learn how to walk, and he's holding his arms open for me so I can go and hug him, and he can hug me back. And those are my earliest memories of my dad, and thank God that he's still alive. And for me, that is the kind of brother I am now, where my sister can come to me and say, I need help, and not be ashamed to say it. Or she knows that I'm there with a ready hug. Even if I don't really understand, she knows I'm going to support her, even if I don't understand what she's going through. And that's the kind of dad I want to be someday. Someone who hugs his kids, someone who, and I try and tell that to the women that I have been with in the past, and maybe someday someone who's going to be my wife. That's the kind of dad or husband I want to be, where I'm not ashamed to read to her or hold my kids in bed at night and read to them and put them to bed. And because my dad did all those, very involved fatherly things with me. Going back to your conversation, because that then feeds into who we are as men. He was a very powerful man in the sense that he was a very manly man. But he also had these very soft, vulnerable moments, and that has fed into who I am now as a person.
बड़ी आपने खूबसूरत बात की. It was beautifully how you summed up that moment. the picture that you were talking about. And I think we all need to go back to that and relive some of the things that were very simple, but they define and shape you to be the person that you will be later on. And again, the role of a parent or a guardian is so important, because the seeds of masculine traits are planted into boys and girls at a very, 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 very young age. And there is nothing they can do about it. कितने थेरेपिस्ट हैं यार जो क्वालिफाइड हैं हमारे मुल्क में, कितने थेरेपिस्ट हैं उनको ये पता भी हो कि वो कर क्या रहे हैं. So you're leaving it to God, you're leaving it to yourself. And what people don't realize is when you're going through changes in your life, you're going through therapy, the shit show doesn't stop. So this glass is you trying to heal, and this is the world going around in circles, and the shit show pani karne laga. And the shit show never stops. So you have to heal or change while there are financial problems, challenges, while you have relationship problems, health problems, blah blah, मुल्क के हालात इधर उधर सब. So please अपने boys के साथ, अच्छे मर्दों के साथ reignite करें चीज़ों को. And there's something that I read that really hit me hard, and this is something I want to end with, is stoicism is the air we breathe and anger is the only expression. Wow. Think about that. Stoicism is the air we breathe and anger is the only solution. And if you actually dig deep into what it means, you will know where the problem lies.
Thank you very much, Broccoli.
Thank you.
Guys, this has been a fun discussion, and we will have more episodes like this coming up. Feel free to leave comments in the comment section. Where else would you leave them?
They can आपके घर पे भी बाहर.
मैं exactly.
बाहर वो लगा होता है उस पर ड्रॉप कर सकते हैं.
मैं यही चाहता था कि ये ना हो.
मैं चाहता हूँ ऐसा हो.
तुम अच्छा. So yeah, comments in the comment section. Anything that you'd like us to talk about, to discuss, we're all open to the discussion, not other things.
And don't forget to subscribe to the channel. And I can't believe I am the guy who sits on camera and says don't forget to subscribe and like and all of that, but that's important. Because we want to raise awareness. And trust me, this is not something we're doing to get famous or make money. It's something we're doing to raise a voice and have conversations that are very uncomfortable and they challenge the social norms. So please like, subscribe and follow us on our socials. And if you have any suggestions or comments, feel free to give them. Hate comments कर सकते हैं, खुल के करें. Not that I will give a fuck, but आप कर सकते हैं.
Thank you and good night.